The views and opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect the policies and the position of Now You Know.
Good evening and welcome to Viewpoint. Together with experts and newsmakers, we'll make sense of the week's biggest issues and stories. I'm Barnaby Lo in tonight's conversation.
Millions of Filipinos will no longer be able to watch their favorite teleserye or get news and information from ABS-Cbn. On Friday, lawmakers in the lower house voted overwhelmingly to deny the application of the Philippines' largest media network for a renewal of its broadcast license. The closure comes after years of attack from President Rodrigo Duterte for critical coverage of the drug war and for failing to run a number of his campaign ads during the 2016 presidential election. Critics and media advocacy groups say it is part of the ongoing assault on press freedom in the country. The company's 11,000 employees are also at risk of losing their jobs, with the overall economy a potential casualty as well.
So, for an in-depth discussion on what happened to ABS-CBN, on the state of press freedom in the Philippines, even the state of media literacy among Filipinos, a little bit of journalism 101 maybe, joining us live via Skype is an ex-officio member of the House Committee on Legislative Franchises, the Deputy Minority Leader, Bayan Representative Carlos Zarate. Good evening, Kong Kaloy.
Good evening, Barnes. Good evening to all our viewers.
And with us also, live via Skype as well, is UP Journalism Professor Sir Danilo Arao. Professor Arao, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, good evening and thank you for having me.
Okay, I'll call you Sir Danny.
Of course.
All right. Let me first get to your reactions, I guess. I mean, you've been all over media anyway, but let's start with that. Your reaction on the I would describe, what was an overwhelming vote in Congress in favor of the junking of the application of the renewal of ABS-CBN's broadcast license. Maybe we'll start with Kongkaloy.
Well, it was not totally unexpected as far as I'm concerned, no? Judging from the body language of those who are really opposing the grant of a new franchise to ABS-CBN, the personalities. But when the count was over, I still, I felt like saddened but angered by the fact that the fate of 11,000 workers and millions of Filipinos depending on a source of information depending on ABS-CBN is now decided by 70 members of Congress. No,
that was really your concern, the fate of the 11,000 workers, because when you delivered your speech last Thursday, that was also the highlight of your speech.
Yes, because when people say we cannot live, we can live without ABS-CBN, for the 11,000, that is not the case. For the millions of kababayan natin, na this is the only source of information that they have, especially in this grave crisis that we have now, aggravated by the pandemic, So talagang ang grave ang impact noon. Probably some people can makatulog sila sa gabi, but with too many millions, in fact, without ABS-CBN, malaki ang nagiging dagok sa buhay nila. And so, of course, isang concern ko rin talaga yung chilling effect nitong desisyon na ito ng Committee on Legislative Franchise in the larger picture of press freedom, the right to information, and right of our people, to express themselves, especially the current milieu that we have now in the Philippines, where impunity and tyranny is, reigning, Barn.
Sir Danny, what about you? I think you've also expressed the same concerns, but as a journalism professor, the state of press freedom more you're concerned? Because some people say it's not really an issue of press freedom because it's just ABS-CBN. There's still GMA, there's still TV5, there's still CNN Philippines and whatnot.
Well, as mentioned by Congressman Zarate, it's really a chilling effect on the media. Even during the time of martial law, when news media organizations were reopened, Marcos only had to harass and intimidate certain sectors of the alternative media or the so-called mosquito press for the other news media organizations to toe the line. So that's what's happening right now. We cannot separate what happened to ABS-CBN with what Rappler is going through right now, as well as what Philippine Daily Inquirer, albeit for a brief period, also went through. So these are leading news media organizations, and if you can do that to such media giants, then you can do the same for the others. So that's where you look at the angle of chilling effect. And maybe later on, we can talk about the nature of media
Pero
coverage.
are you already seeing the chilling effect? Meron na ba?
Yes, I was going through that. Right now, we're seeing the lack of critical reportage, I'm sorry to say, on many burning issues of the day, especially during the time of the pandemic, where we are looking at the infodemic of fake news. Many journalists, many media organizations are not asking the hard questions. Of course, I have to caution the televiewers here. To be fair, there are a lot of committed journalists out there, but there is a lot of care and caution that's being felt in the coverage of certain news media organizations. So yes, we are feeling it right now.
So sa tingin nyo, Prof. Danny, it's the function of a chilling effect rather than our journalists not being able to ask the right questions.
It's a combination of both, Barnaby, because right now, government has imposed certain restrictions regarding news gathering. Unlike in the US, Canada, New Zealand, just to name a few countries, right now, physical press conferences, briefings with the heads of state
Mhm.
are not being done right now. So again, it makes you wonder why something as simple as that is not being observed by the government. The virtual pressers, while we're able to get information from the Department of Health and other agencies, questions are being pre-screened. So there is time for the government officials to review the questions and maybe skip the questions that are hard.
I
So I would say that there is that maneuvering by the government to maximize the current pandemic to really evade the asking of the hard questions.
I can attest to that because certain departments of the government do ask for questions in advance. Pero Sir Danny, I'll go back to you, Kong Kaloy, later. But
Oh, it's
because
okay.
because Sir Danny has already
Journalism
mentioned it,
101 is
so maybe it's time to maybe educate our viewers about the process that we go through as journalists. Na, di ba, Sir Danny, kumbaga, bawal sa atin talaga yung nagbibigay ng tanong.
Yeah, exactly. Because we're looking at the spontaneity of the answers, because that's where we get the sincerity and the credibility of our sources of information. By the way, Barnaby, before I continue, I should put on record that Congressman Zarate used to be a community journalist, so he also knows a lot about these things.
That's right.
But anyway,
Thank
just to
you very much.
continue, yes. Anyway, just to continue, what I'm trying to stress here is that there are certain norms in journalism that would have to be clarified. And again, no disrespect to the majority of the legislators out there, there is a skewed understanding among some of the legislators regarding their line of questioning on journalism. For example, their concept of balance requires equal airtime or equal space. That's not true. And they say that the headlines, for example, should not be flavored or should just be bland, like Perfecto Yasay passes away and then that's it. And they even question the China pivot angle provided by the headline of ABS-CBN.
Mm.
I mean, something as simple as factual and contextual accuracy should be repeated, because that applies also to headline writing. It's not just a bland obituary. What you're doing is a write-up of a prominent person who died. So therefore, whatever his legacy may be, good or bad, it would have to be mentioned, not just in the body of the article, but also in the headline.
Right. Congressman Zarate, I think you wanted to add something. Sitting there listening to your colleagues during that second to the last hearing, lecturing journalists about fair and balanced reporting. As a lawmaker, as a former journalist, what were you thinking?
Talagang nanginginig ako ano? Dahil it's our constitutional duty, no? The primary jurisdiction to tackle private bills like franchise is with Congress, especially the House of Representatives and the Committee on Legislative Franchises. But I think wala sa aming duty yon or obligasyon na pati kung paano magbabalita, paano mo gagawin yung pagbabalita mo ay didiktahan pa ng Kongreso. No? Hindi siguro gano'n kung nakuha ako kay Sir Danny, yung kanyang Journalism 101, hindi gano'n ang papel ng Kongreso. No? Sabi ko nga, ang papel ng Kongreso doon sa isang pagdinig namin, ang papel ng Kongreso ay paniguro na ang mga kasamahan natin sa media, na mga journalists, ay magampanan nila ang kanilang trabaho ng malaya, no, nang walang pagsasalang-alang, na hindi nila iniisip na merong sword of Damocles na nakadanggel sa ulo nila, no, at they will resort to self-censorship dahil natatakot sila na yung mga nasa kapangyarihan ay pwedeng patahimikan sila. Hindi ganoon ang papel ng Kongreso. Kaya doon pa lang, at yun ay kaya nga talagang objectionable yun sa tingin ko, at hindi katanggap-tanggap sa amin yung inilabas na technical working group, no, even on that aspect of supposed bias. Dahil sabi ko nga rin wala namang media na hindi bias. Kailangan nga talaga may bias ka.
Okay. So ang sinasabi nyo, meron talagang biased reporting, but not the way that some of the congressmen perceive biased reporting. Yeah.
Yes, Barn. Kasi sa tingin nila, pag pinupuna ka, it's a bias, no? I think iba 'yon, no? At ang sinasabi ko, kailangan may bias ang media for truth, for example. There are also, halimbawa, media entity lang ang bias nila, reportage on environment, no? So hindi masama ang bias, no? Pero meron namang kapamaraanan, no? For example, if you think that the reportage are not truthful, are not fair, then I think there are mechanism, no? Kahit na sa ABS-CBN, they have their own ombudsman, no? That you can complain kung gusto mo, no? So sa akin, hindi isang issue na bias yung media, kasi hindi mo naman pwedeng sabihin na ang media ay maging neutral. Mali rin 'yon, no? Tinuturo sa atin 'yan, no, bilang mga journalists. So walang neutral dito. At in fact, even the issue on objectivity,
Iba yung neutral, iba yung objective.
Oo, magkaiba yun. Pero hindi mo pwedeng ma-expect na 100% merong ganun. Absolute yun. Hindi, sa tingin ko hindi ganun, no? So, pero babalik ako doon sa premise ko, hindi papel ng Kongreso yan, no, na idikta kung paano gagawin ng isang mamamahayag ang kanyang trabaho, no?
Sinabi naman po ng ABS-CBN na hindi sila perfect, na nagkakamali naman sila.
Yeah, exactly. At yun ang nakita natin during the hearings, no? Meron talaga silang mga lapses, mga pagkakamali. In fact, even doon sa usapin ng labor, no? At kaya nga nagkaroon ng mga kaso Pero yung mga kaso na ito ay na-settle, no? Nagkaroon na ng mga resolutions, even sa usapin ng taxes nila, meron din. Hindi naman sila perfecto, no? But tingin ko, these are not compelling reasons, no, to deny the franchise. Dahil you are just aggravating the situation sa pag-deny mo ng franchise sa kanila. Halimbawa, doon sa usapin ng taxes, doon kasi sa technical working group, pinagkumpara nila yung taxes na binabayaran ng ABS-CBN at ang ibang networks. No? Sabi nila, bakit itong network na ito, ganito ang binayad for this period? Kayo ganito lang. Sapat na ba na dahilan nyo na ang BIR mismo nagsabi na wala silang tax delinquencies, no? So ang nangyari kasi rito, kahit na may mga testimonies na from the different regulatory bodies, ay gusto pa rin ng miyembro ng Kongreso na yung kanilang interpretation of facts and conclusion of law ang masusunod, no? Then that violates doon sa principle ng original primary jurisdiction, no? Na dapat bigyan natin ng pagrespeto yung mga regulatory bodies, yung mga administrative agencies dahil meron silang competence on these issues.
Sir Danny, you wanted to add something?
Yes, regarding other aspects, because really it's a press freedom issue. But of course, with regard to labor, we should also keep in mind that the accusations hurled against ABS-CBN may also hold true for other news media organizations. Because when you talk about contractualization, it's a very, very controversial issue in the entire Philippine media industry. So the chilling effect, the other angle of chilling effect would have to do not just with press freedom, but also with how the franchises granted to the other news media organizations may fare in the coming remaining years of the Duterte administration. Because perhaps Congressman Zarate would correct me on this. If it was granted by a certain body, there is an option to withdraw it or to subject it to another round of investigation now that the floodgates of the issue of contractualization has been talked about. So that's why there is reason to worry among many of the news media organizations, most especially those with existing franchise at the moment.
Itong issue ng contractualization, sa totoo lang, mga sir, hindi lang sa Pilipinas eh. You know, when I was working in the US, I was also, so-called talent, working on a per-hour basis. And my whole career, I've been contractual, to be honest. So, pero Congressman Zarate, sabi ni Congressman Marcoleta, at the end of the day, because it is within the power of Congress to grant or deny broadcast licenses or franchises, then it is the will of the Congress that has to prevail. Kumbaga, sabi niya kasi, whatever the government agencies had said all throughout the a dozen or so hearings, wala yun. It is the will of the Congress that should prevail. Am I understanding it right?
Yeah. Well, that's a very dangerous proposition. Well, sabi ko nga kanina, wala namang debate doon that ang primary jurisdiction ng franchise ay with the Congress, especially the Committee on Legislative Franchise. In fact, hindi pwedeng dumiretso sa Senado yan. Talagang under our Constitution, dadaan yan sa House, no? But kaya nga meron tayong mga tinatawag rin na delegated powers, no? Yung Kongreso, dinelegate niya yung mga powers niya sa mga administrative agencies para yung kanilang expertise and competence, no, ay magawa nila. So kung ganun kasi ang mangyayari, then we might abolish all of these agencies at lahat sa Kongreso na, no? But hindi pwede yung gano'n because it will be chaotic, no? Yung ating bureaucracy will be, anarchy will set in, I suppose, kung gano'n, no? Kaya nga, dapat bigyan, under nga dun sa doktrina ng sinabi ko, talagang binibigyan ng, kahit na nga ang korte, hindi nakikialam. Pag nasa kamay pa yan ng mga administrative agencies, pag hindi pa nila na-desisyonan ng isang bagay, o isang controversy, ay nire-respeto nila yung mga administrative agencies, no? But here, just because it's our primary jurisdiction, sabi niya, kahit ano pang sabihin ng mga agencies, kami pa rin ang masusunod. Well, that is a recipe for, anarchy and, kaguluhan sa, in fact, a recipe for tyranny, no? And dictatorship yung ganyan.
So, given what you said, kailangan bang palitan itong sistema ng pagbibigay ng broadcast franchise? Because parang ang lumalabas kasi, and correct me if I'm wrong, yung naging desisyon, a lot of it, not all, but some of it, based on personal grudge, personal biases ng mga lawmakers who made the decision. So kumbaga, yung mga magde-decide, meron silang gripe doon sa pagdidesisyonan nila. Tama ho ba?
Yeah, yung kasi yung the myth of a liberal democracy na we are a representative democracy, no, na so the people speaks, no, through their representatives, and dahil nga ang franchise naman is a privilege, no, kailangan dumaan ka sa mga representative ng mga tao, no. So kaya nakalagay yun sa ating konstitusyon at kailangan talagang dahil pribilehiyo ito ay kumuha ka ng prangkisa, especially dahil hindi naman lahat ay pwedeng gawin ang ginagawa halimbawa ng ABS-CBN. So but be that as it may, siguro kailangan lang maging ang mga mamamayan ay magiging active participant dito, no, na kailangan i-correct din nila. Nasa kamay ng mamamayan nakikita na nila ngayon kung paanong naabuso at na-weaponize supposedly yung kanilang kapangyarihan na dinelegate din nila sa kanilang representative, no. So I think there's some lessons that will be learned here. These are nothing new, no, na mga lessons, but kailangan ulit-ulitin siguro para matuto tayo.
Sir Danny, how do you see people participating in this process? I mean, is there even a...
Yeah. Anyway, there are two major things that we need to point out here. First, regarding the granting of franchise, I think this is the opportune time to really rethink the power of Congress in terms of granting franchise privileges to broadcast networks. Because in other countries, well, you've been to the US, I'm sure you're aware that it's the FCC that provides for the assignment of the airwaves, that regulates rather the airwaves. And the FCC is relatively more independent if you compare how the National Telecommunications Commissions here is being run. Because the NTC for the longest time has been under the office of the president, and it was only in 2016 that it was put as an affiliate office under the Department of Information and Communications Technology. So be that as it may, it is still a government agency, which would have to toe the line, so to speak. Now, with regard to the power of Congress, right now, we have to go through the proverbial eye of the needle in terms of franchise application. You have to register with the SEC. You have to apply for frequency allocation from the National Telecommunications Commission, and then you need to get permit or a franchise from Congress. And sometimes there is a tendency to politicize everything in Congress. With the registration with the SEC and the NTC, these are just purely technical and ministerial matters. And the only issue that would have to be settled at the NTC level would be how to allocate finite resources. So in other words, if there are, let's say, 3 applicants and you only have 1 frequency left, then it's up to the NTC to decide who among the 3 would choose. But if we put it under the ambit of press freedom, then we have to keep in mind that that the assignment of frequency should just be technical concern, and there should be nothing political about it. So I'm not sure how our friends from the Makabayan bloc would look at, taking away the power of the, franchise granting for Congress. But I think we have to move in that direction so that we can remove the politics out of this process.
Yeah, Barn. I agree with Professor Danny, but we have to amend the Constitution if that is the case, because it's very clear in the Constitution that franchises should really go through the process of going to Congress, especially the House of Representatives. So probably tama yung concept na this will have to be delegated more, and empowered more. NTC as an independent commission rather than an appendage of the executive, so that it can, hindi, especially the danger of regulatory capture will also not be there, So, but again, this has to be included probably if there are when we have to amend our constitution, kasi malinaw sa constitution yan.
Okay.
But even without that, I think pwedeng i-review yung powers ng National Telecommunications Commission and strengthen yung kanilang regulatory powers, within the context now na mayroong limitation, dahil sa Congress pa rin talaga yung prangkisa.
Para malinaw lang, Congressman Zarate, ano? Ano ba talaga yung nakalagay sa rules na dapat tinitingnan ng Kongreso sa pag-approve ng prangkisa ng isang broadcaster? Kasi mukhang yung kaso ng ABS-CBN is special. Kumbaga, ito na yung may pinakamahabang hearings, pinakamadaming issues involved, na parang sabi ng mga iba, yung ibang issues na tinalakay, hindi naman talaga kasali sa pag-approve ng broadcast franchise. Tama ko ba?
You are correct, Barn. No? Nakakaupo din naman ako as an ex-officio member ng Committee on Legislative Franchises. Nakakaupo ako dyan sa mga hearings nila. No? At ano naman, ang tinitingnan lang pag ikaw ay bagong applicant o meron ka bang capacity. No? Una-una, syempre, are you a registered corporation? Tapos financial capacity. At tinatanong yung mga regulatory agencies, o SEC, may problema ka ba rito? BIR. So pag umokay na yung mga agencies na to, as pag inimbita sila as resource persons, approve na kaagad, no? So meron nga dyan, 1 oras lang na hearing, tapos na. No? Siguro
supporting.
Yes, oo. Pero dito, sa talagang unprecedented itong ginawa sa ABS-CBN, no? Sabi ko nga, 12 hearings. Tapos yung oras, starting from 1 p.m., the latest na ginawa namin up to midnight. No?
Midnight, yes.
No? So, talagang sininggled out itong ABS-CBN. But, ang isang consequence nito, binuksan nila yung magiging precedent ito, no? So ma-weaponize na itong ganitong klase, no? What will prevent now from other congresspersons, no? In the event na merong mga franchises, sabihin nila, okay, questionin ko lahat from the Constitution up to the mundane issues. I have my right, no? Because in the case of the ABS-CBN, these things are being raised, no? Pero isang gusto ko lang talaga i-raise, yung kailangang ma-review itong ginawang president na Senate ng Congressional Committee on Legislative Franchise, no, yung parang binaliwala yung findings ng mga administrative agencies. Halimbawa doon sa PDR, no, Philippine Depository Receipts, sabi ng Securities and Exchange Commission, valid naman 'yon as investment paper or tool, no. Now, if you are saying that that is unconstitutional, ang isang implication nun, the other networks who are also using these PDRs and other companies, questionable din sila. Pwede bang mag-file ang SOL dyan ng quo warranto din dyan dahil unconstitutional, no? And a lot more issues, no, na talagang sinantabi yung findings ng mga regulatory agencies, no? So, nagsiset ito ng bad precedent really sa committee.
So, Sir Danny, what Congressman Zarate, I think, is saying is that no one is safe. Tama ba? Hindi ata ako nadinig ni Sir Danny. Yeah. Sir Danny, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Wala ata si Sir Danny sa yung audio niya.
Okay. Yep. Sir
Okay.
Danny, can
I'm sorry,
you hear me?
the connection isn't so good. Could you please repeat?
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah. Okay, I can hear you now. Yes.
Hello?
Okay. Hello? Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry, the connection isn't so good. Could you please repeat your question? I assume that you're asking me something. Tama ba?
Yeah. Sir Danny, I was asking you because Congressman Zarate was saying something to the effect that based on the proceedings, it looks like they've set a new precedent, and then which looks like nobody is going to be safe.
Yeah, definitely. Nobody's going to be safe, and it opens the floodgates, as Congressman Zarate mentioned. There's nothing that prevents other networks from being investigated, even if they've been granted a franchise already. So that's the dangerous part. And the other aspect that we need to also look at would be certain statements made by resource persons, particularly from the National Telecommunications Commission, questioning, for example, the block time arrangement with Amcara uh, or Channel 43. So the danger there is that right now, NTC is sending a message that it has the right to interfere with block time arrangements. And when we talk about block time arrangement, we refer here to the media content itself. So it has been established that ABS-CBN has already divested its shares in Amcara as early as 2019. So the assumption here is that Amcara is now a new company. So it is within the right of any organization to have a block time arrangement with it. If ABS-CBN chooses to get 21 out of 24 hours in that particular corporation, then that should have been its right. But what NTC or some, and as well as some members in Congress are saying is that no, you cannot do that because it's a violation of the cease and desist order last May 5, when in fact the May 5 CDO, correct me if I'm wrong, has to do with ABS-CBN, DCMM, and MOR. So that's it.
Now, presidential spokesperson Harry Roque made several comments yesterday and today. I'm going to start with what he said yesterday. He said at the palace, and President Duterte to that, to an extent, is neutral on the issue. What do you think about, this question is for both of you, what do you think about, allegations that President Duterte may be behind the fate of ABS-CBN? Professor Danny, go ahead.
I think we have to look at the 2017 State of the Nation address where Duterte singled out ABS-CBN, Rappler, and the Philippine Daily Inquirer. And he already talked about the alleged foreign ownership as well as biased reporting. These are the issues that have cropped up. And then after the 2017 SONA, there were public pronouncements of Duterte saying words to the effect that the franchise renewal will not be granted for ABS-CBN. And there was even a threat of estafa because of alleged failure to air the political advertisement, and that he can withdraw the case if ABS-CBN would agree to help in the campaign for federalism. So those are the facts. I mean, no one can dispute that. So to say right now that Duterte is completely neutral, the spokesperson or even the president himself should prove that he is really completely neutral. What happened between his statement saying that the franchise will not be granted and then now? I think there has to be a certain degree of consistency on the part of the president in order to prove that he is completely neutral, because the past pronouncements negate his claim right now.
Congressman Zarate, ang sabi ni presidential spokesperson Harry Roque, pinatawad na raw ni President Duterte yung ABS-CBN, kaya daw neutral. Do you buy?
You cannot divorce the past statements of the president, no? So sa naging resulta ngayon nung botohan, dahil that triggered a lot of things, no? And even if he said that pinatawad ko na, sabi ni Harry Roque, pinatawad na raw, ang tanong, binawi ba niya? Yung sabi niya na you are out and your franchise will not be renewed and you will be closed by next year. So hindi naman niya binawi, no? Of course, pwedeng sabihin pinatawad ko na kayo, pero if it was really meant to be meant that he will allow now the grant to be franchise, then sabi niya, binawi niya yung statement na yon, no? Dahil habang na yung statement na yon ay andyan, no? Malinaw kasi yung sinabi niya. Next year sarado na kayo. I will make it a point, no, na yung inyong franchise ay hindi ma-renew and you're out. So gaya nga ng sinabi ni Professor Danny, talaga, nagkaroon ng epekto yan doon, no? Hindi mo pwedeng ma-erase na lang basta-basta yan.
So yung number na 70 na sobrang overwhelming, 70 na yes, the junking of the franchise of ABS-CBN against just 11 na no. para sa inyo po ba this shows what does this show? Does this show pressure from the executive, or do you think that this is just on the lawmakers' own volition?
Major decisions like this, no, kasi may mga implications talaga, no, pag dinay mo yung franchise, may implikasyon yan sa, a lot of things, economy. Hindi mangyayari yan nang walang blessings from Malacanang. Yun ang paniniwala ko na talagang alam ng Malacanang ito, at hindi nakita mo, sabi ko nga, that's emblematic of the influence and even pressure probably, no, na nangyari, na talagang ibasura doon pa lang sa first base pa lang, no, doon pa lang sa committee level ibasura na, dahil hindi pa naman, kasi kahit pumasa yun sa committee level, ang dami pang i-hurdle ng ABS-CBN, kailangan pumasa siya sa plenary. Pag pumasa ka sa plenary, aakyat ka pa ng Senado, no, kung may different versions pa yan, ay mag-bycam pa, no. Pero talagang siniguro nila na doon pa lang sa committee level, tapos ka na, no. The bills will be laid on the table, no. Parliamentary euphemism doon lang sa you are already rejected, no. So talagang hindi mo maihiwalay, ikaila na meron talaga, no, merong
So I'll pick up on that. Ano pa ngayon yung pwedeng gawin ng ABS-CBN? I understand na within 24 hours after the vote, from the block or from those that voted yes, one of them can overturn his own decision and file an appeal on behalf of ABS-CBN. Pero hindi naman nangyari yan. So
Well,
ano yung pwede pang mangyari ngayon?
Well, under our rules, tama yun, Barn. A motion for reconsideration is allowed. But ang pwede lang mag-file ng motion for reconsideration is a member who voted in favor of the majority. So kaming 11 out na doon. Tapos yung motion for reconsideration must be raised during that meeting or immediately the following day. And it has to be in writing kung the following day. Ngayon na yung the following day, no? I'm not really sure kung merong nag-motion for recon. Kung wala na, ang status nung bills, sabi nga na, laid on the table na yon, no? Nandun lang, o hindi na yon mare-report out yung bills na yon sa plenary, no? So parang yun yung status niya, no?
So wala nang pwedeng gawin ng ABS-CBN at this point.
At this point, as far as sa papel ng ABS-CBN, wala na silang magawa, no? Sila. Of course, hindi naman pinagbabawal na theoretically they can still file another application for franchise. But what's the point of filing it in the same Congress, 18th Congress, that overwhelmingly denied your application also, no? So hindi ko gustong pangunahan, pero probably they will wait it out until the next Congress, no? Baka magbago ang political landscape. Pero meron ng malaking difference niyan, Barn, ano? By that time, if they will be given a new franchise, wala na yung kanilang frequencies.
Yun nga sinabi ni Congressman Marcoleta, no? Yesterday, he said kahit nasa 2022, wala na raw chance yung ABS-CBN na makuha ulit yung frequency na to.
Yes, because ang because ang effect talaga nito, dahil tapos na wala na silang franchise talaga. In fact, I think even the case sa Supreme Court will be affected by this. So yung frequencies assigned to them, hindi naman kanila yon, no? Inassign lang sa kanila, can now be assigned to other entities, no? Na may mga pending franchises na rin, or even siguro may mga bagong applicants. So ang pagkakaalam ko sa Greater Manila, for example, wala nang available frequencies dyan, no? So kung bubukas yung Channel 2, maraming mag-aagawan dyan. Kaya sabi ko nga, so ang makikita mo talaga rito, other than the political context siguro, bakit na-deny yung franchise ng ABS-CBN, yung strategic economic reason also why na-deny yung franchise nila, no? Dahil importante yung frequency na yan, no? Pag nakuha yan ng kung sino man. And of course, the strategic political importance also of getting that frequency for the 22 2022 election. No, so this can be also used by those who are behind uh, the rejection of the franchise of ABS-CBN.
Sir Danny, from your point of view, did ABS-CBN ever stand a chance from the time President Duterte attacked ABS-CBN?
I think at that particular time, the writing is already on the wall that ABS-CBN will really have a very, very hard time under this particular administration. Even the time when Duterte was very angry with the non-airing of the political ad in 2016, you can sense his vindictiveness already. And during the State of the Nation address, the writing on the wall is even made much clearer. So it is, I think, incumbent upon us to look beyond Congress in terms of the survival of press freedom right now. So I think public pressure is the key here. Congressman Zarate makes a good point na pag-aagawan talaga yung frequency na yan. Pero syempre, malaking pagsususpecha ang mangyayari kung ngayon hanggang sa susunod na taon o before 2022, ibibigay yan sa kung sino-sino na lang. At kung itong mga grupong ito medyo identified doon sa ilang mga legislator na nag-push para sa denial ng franchise, then we might see overwhelming public protest. So I think those in power will be very cautious in terms of, reassigning that particular frequency. There's no rush, by the way, in terms of reassigning the frequency. So while it is possible that it might be acquired by someone else, maybe it can be still rendered idle between now and 2022. So the slim chance for ABS-CBN regaining it would still be there for as long as there is sustained public pressure.
Okay, so you're seeing public support for ABS-CBN? Is that what you're saying?
Definitely. We don't just need to depend on surveys because right now, regarding whether or not you're for or against the granting of franchise, because the will of the people is not really representative in Congress right now because of the kind of decision that was made there. But if you look at the Black Friday protest starting January 17 this year, it started with just very, very few people. And to put on record, it was only the Makabayan block. The Makabayan block was in complete attendance last January 17. And then it culminated sometime February, and then sometime in February, 2000s marching. We called it the Jericho March along Sergeant Esguerra, where we saw a steady stream of people. Now, the people there went there. Of course, there are mixed, reasons. Some of them just want to see celebrities in person, want to take selfies with some of the bigger stars. But for the most part, they were chanting "Defend Press Freedom," and they know what the issues are because the program was designed in a way that would explain the circumstances behind the ABS-CBN shutdown.
That was Valentine's Day, I remember.
Yeah.
Kasi doon kami nag-date ng wife ko.
That's good.
Yes. But you mentioned, Sir Danny, the will of the people, right? Presidential spokesperson, Secretary Harry Roque, he also mentioned the will of the people. And he said that the decision of Congress is the will of the people. And he added that there is no chilling effect after this decision because the business of ABS-CBN is more entertainment than news and information. May I get both your reactions to this? Maybe Sir Danny, yes.
Okay. Yeah. Two major things here. First of all, the will of the people is not really represented, I'm sorry to say, with Congress because it's not as if the majority of the legislators there consulted their constituents regarding the decision that would have to be made. Because if you look at the outpouring of support on social media, of course, it's not an accurate metric in terms of getting the public pulse. But the fact that, certain hashtags would be trending topics, not just in the Philippines, but also worldwide, it says a lot. The fact that you have the most credible news media organizations worldwide, taking a stand in favor of the granting of franchise for ABS-CBN, that should be taken seriously. The international solidarity that went with it. So that would put in question the so-called will of the people. Now, regarding chilling effect, we're not just talking about the chilling effect resulting from the News and Public Affairs program. Now, it's true. Harry makes a good point that majority of the programs on ABS-CBN are entertainment-oriented. But many of the entertainment shows, particularly the more popular ones, have political undertones there. And that would partly explain why some of the legislators were deeply offended with a negative portrayal of certain, police officers, members of Congress, mayors, and all that. And they say that, these entertainment shows, paint us in a different light. So the chilling effect is there. Because right now, in terms of towing the line, maybe other news media organizations would think twice about the negative portrayal of certain, corrupt officials, corrupt police officers, or military troops. So there is still that chilling effect that would have to be considered because you don't claim entertainment shows to be apolitical in nature. Actually, I can even argue that everything is political insofar as media content is concerned.
Kongkaloy.
Well, uh, these past days there are a lot. The more spokesperson Roque is describing a lot of things, the more that I don't agree with him. No, whether that's about the Philippines winning against the fight against COVID-19, and the self-congratulatory, the premature self-congratulatory. But expected from him, he wants to spin things for Malacanang, but the realities on the ground are iba, no? In fact, sabi ko nga siguro ang isang magandang ibinungan nitong pag-deny ng prangkisa ng ABS-CBN is the coming together of media, the journalists, no? In solidarity with each other, wala nang kapuso, wala nang kapamilya, kapatid, alternative, no? Dahil nakita nila na kailangan they have to strengthen and unite their ranks against this assault on the press freedom. So yun yung realities on the ground, no? Kahit may mga limitations ngayon, kanina, as I've said, galing ako sa isang online protest ng mga journalists and even outside of the Philippines, no? Expressing their solidarity with our colleagues sa ABS-CBN. So the fight is not yet over, no? If they think it's over, napakalaking pagkakamali noon, no? That because this will only galvanize people to really come together and unite and ipaglaban yung karapatan ng pamamahayag.
Sabi ni Congressman Remulla, napaka-powerful ng media, ng fourth estate. What do you think about that remark? Si ABS-CBN President and CEO Carlo Katigbak, he replied and said, well, the decision for ABS-CBN's franchise is in the hands of Congress. And so it appears Congress is more powerful, or the government is remains more powerful than the media. Sir Danny.
Well, for me, we have to compare power, relatively speaking, because when we say that government is more powerful than the media, it's like comparing apples and oranges. Of course, the power in terms of shaping public opinion is inherently there in media, and you cannot deny how it can make or unmake presidents. The Watergate scandal, for example, resulted in the resignation of Nixon in the US. And of course, we know the power of Radio Veritas in terms of overthrowing the dictatorship, right? So there is that power. But of course, when it comes to, state power, who controls the guns and who has the capacity to detain people for the right or the wrong reason. So relatively speaking, government has that power. And the challenge right now is you have to not you should not abuse that particular power of the government. Now, for the part of media, is it possible for media to abuse its own power? Of course. that's where self-regulation and the ethical and professional standards would come in. Media have self-correcting mechanisms for whatever excesses that it may have. Now, for government to interfere with such internal mechanisms, self-regulatory mechanisms, would spell a lot in terms of, would speak a lot in terms of how it looks at press freedom and editorial independence.
There is some parang a hint of suggestion of regulating media during the course of the hearings, Congressman Zarate. Do you
Well,
agree with that?
no.
I mean, no. I mean, because you said, the one option is to grant ABS-CBN a franchise, an amended franchise. Would that include some form of regulation?
Well, franchise in itself is a form of regulation, no? Because there are limitations set by law. Dahil nga, it's a privilege, no? Unlike, for example, of bubukas ka ng newspaper, iba yon talaga sa broadcast industry. But parang ang sinasabi ay kailangan i-regulate natin ang broadcast industry by dictating on how the content, ano yung content. I think that is absolutely a no-no, no? Dahil talagang ano yan, absolute violation ng freedom of the press, no? Na dinidiktahan na ng estado. Remember, ang kaharap mo rito ay estado, no? Lahat ng resources nasa kanya, no? Kahit sabihin mo malaki yung network, yung ABS-CBN, ang kaharap pa rin niya ang estado, no? Ang state pa rin with all the resources of the state. So talagang you're at the mercy, especially kung yung mga institusyon na yan ay na-weaponize to really close down a network, for example, like ABS-CBN. No? So kaya pabalik-balik yung statement namin ni Sir Dan, yan yung chilling effect dyan.
Yeah. But do you think that ABS-CBN has been a kingmaker? That's one of the accusations.
Historically, I'm sorry.
Yes, Sir Danny, yes. Go
Okay,
ahead.
sorry about that. When you say kingmaker, I think you refer to whether or not it's able to elect certain, presidents or vice presidents into power. Of course, it's a matter of public record. Marcos once had a Lopez as vice president, right? Fernando Lopez. So I'm not sure if by kingmaker you would argue along that line. And perhaps going further back, the Quirinos became president allegedly because of the contribution, because of how he was projected by ABS-CBN. But again, we go back to the original discourse. The kind of accusation that you're leveling against ABS-CBN may also be said of certain news media organizations that would tend to favor, in terms of media coverage, certain candidates. Barnes, way back in 2004, 2007, and 2010, I was part of the team that did the media coverage of the elections on those three cycles. And it would appear that there are certain favorable coverage that are usually granted to administration candidates. So that is the usual characteristic of the dominant media. And we cannot single out ABS-CBN for such favorable coverage for the administration at the expense sometimes of the opposition. And since we have a party list representative here, one of the major findings way back in 2004, there was very, very minimal coverage of the party list elections.
Yeah,
But
true.
the beauty of media criticism is that from 2007, 2010, and then in the succeeding elections, there was somehow some improvement in terms of coverage by the media, so including ABS-CBN. So there was more coverage, although it still leaves much to be desired for the party list aspect of the election. And there was, an attempt to also get more opposition candidates getting, their share of the airtime. But of course, it still leaves much to be desired. So that kingmaker discourse, historically, we see the facts with regard to ABS-CBN. But if you look at the content analysis and discourse analysis throughout the election cycles, we can see a certain, favorable treatment for administration candidates, regardless of who the president is.
So, Congressman Zarate, the wrongdoings are not unique to ABS-CBN.
Yes, and that fact was also established during the hearings. No, in fact, ABS-CBN admitted that they are not perfect, and the resource persons that we invited also said as much. No, that these things are also happening in other networks. For example, this prevalent practice of hiring talents. No, as you mentioned, it's not only in the Philippines, even in other countries. No, it's an industry practice. No, and for example, the case of tax avoidance. That's one issue that they have been hammering out. ABS-CBN is abusing this tax avoidance, but that's legal. They did not say that ABS-CBN is evading taxes because tax evasion is illegal. Only that ABS-CBN are doing tax avoidance, but that's allowed under the law. No, so but the others are also doing that. So if there are reforms, no, if they wanted reforms to be made, then do not just single out ABS-CBN. We might as well. That's why I'm challenging them. Still pending in Congress a law that will ban contractualization. Then, if they're really for the interest of the labor, then we have to pass it, no? As soon as possible. In fact, we are challenging Malacanang to certify it. Unfortunately, may dumating na ganitong proposed bill sa Malacanang na veto naman ng presidente, no? Back to zero, no? Back to zero. So, there are still a lot of things to be done. Ang nangyari lang talaga rito, ang makita mo talaga sa picture, they are just throwing all these issues to really push out ABS-CBN out of the industry, no? Nakita mo naman how they injected other issues kahit tapos na yung hearings, no? Pinasok na naman yung Meralco despite the fact that Meralco is no longer owned by the Lopezes, no? Pero pinasok na naman nila, and they will conduct more hearings pa daw, no, on these issues, Barn.
Congressman Zarate, how do you see this decision affecting our overall economy, given the size of ABS-CBN as a media conglomerate?
Well, BIR said in the past 10 years, ABS-CBN paid at least 71.5 billion taxes. No, so that's how much taxes will be lost in the 5 or 6 to 10 years. And you cannot just ignore the fact that 11,000 workers are also paying their taxes. No, so may impact yan sa economy. And
in the context of this pandemic.
Yes, especially during this time of pandemic, and even the confidence probably of investors when they see that parang there's no stability in the regulatory regime in the Philippines, because even if there are decisions already made by administrative bodies, no, ay pwede palang baliktarin. Pwede palang baliktarin ito, no? So what confidence can you
so hindi lang sa media industry yung effect?
Yes, hindi lang. In fact, I've read an article na yung isang rating firm is saying na masama talagang epekto nito sa economy, especially during this time, no? Umutang nga tayo ng umutang dahil kailangan natin ng pera, pero ito tinatapon natin, no? Sinasara natin yung isang possible sources ng revenue, no? So yun yung graver implications nito na I don't know if tiningnan ito ng aming mga kasamahan, no, nang bumoto sila doon sa at least doon sa 70 na yun, kung talaga bang pinag-aralan nila ang magiging implication nito.
Sir Danny, ano naman ang effect nito sa trust ng mga tao sa media? Kasi sa Amerika nakikita natin na meron rising distrust sa media. Nangyayari din ba dito yun? Kasi alam kong artificial yun. Kasi when you look at social media, it looks like there's also a significant number of people who are against ABS-CBN, who don't trust ABS-CBN's news coverage. But, it's mixed with, the paid trolls and real people. So parang it's hard to gauge,
Well, when you look at trust of media, we have to look at the prevalence of fake news. So sometimes people get the impression that fake news sites would serve as the alternative to the so-called legitimate media, for lack of a better word. So definitely, there is distrust that's going on. That's why we are pressured to ensure media literacy and news literacy among the greater publics. In the universities, for example, we try to organize workshops for teachers and students in order to ensure that the expectations that we have on media will be relatively more realistic. Now, the kind of trust or distrust that the people have cuts across different nations. So it's not just here in the Philippines that we're having that problem regarding fake news. Because if you look at, for example, the study by Ong and Cabañez, fake news has become an industry, not just here in the Philippines, but also worldwide. So the disinformation that's happening right now is very systematic. It's not just one person who is influenced by fake news. There is conscious effort to really sow disinformation and fear and panic among people so that the media would be compromised and that the media would not be so credible in the eyes of the public. So we have to also look at it from that political angle.
Okay. Medyo overtime na po tayo. Thank you so much sa inyong dalawa. Siguro last question na lang po and maybe your short answers, you know. So what is the role of free press, you think, in a democratic society like the Philippines? How important is it that ABS-CBN, like, you know, an organization like ABS-CBN stays, even if they're not on the air, that their other platforms are still available for the public?
In terms of variety of information, we need ABS-CBN to continue. Even if its market share will be compromised, right now, based on the media ownership monitor of Reporters Sans Frontier and Verifiles, what we have is a duopoly. So, of course, the duopoly is slowly transforming into a monopoly. Now, in the wake of a monopoly in media, we need independent voices. The alternative media would be one of them. And of course, the basic challenge for ABS-CBN would be to continue or improve further its critical reportage because for the simple reason that it has nothing left to lose. It doesn't have a franchise anymore, so it shouldn't feel that much pressure in terms of speaking truth to power, so to speak. So it's good that Katigbak mentioned that ABS-CBN will be focusing on the digital platform and it will be mainly a content creator. So we hope that it will continue along that line, but of course, the critical reportage should not be compromised.
Mhm. Congressman Zarate?
Well, siguro, nabanggit na ni Sir Dano yung importance. Ano? Dagdag ko na lang, importante sa ating demokrasya ang isang malayang pagpapahayag, no? Ang free press. No? If there is a free press, then yung sinasabi nating people will be free can also be assured. No? Without free press, people will be, the rights will be trampled, no, upon tapos ang ating demokrasya ay malagay sa alanganin. Kaya mahalaga yung isang ipaglaban natin at panatilihin nating maprotektuhan itong karapatan na ito na enshrined sa ating constitution.
Sorry, may ihahabol lang ako isang tanong para kay Sir Danny kasi na-skip ko. Pero importante kasi I think for our viewers to understand ano bang difference ng news, ano bang difference ng propaganda.
Okay.
Tapos
Well,
kasi yung iba kasi parang ang tingin kasi nila ang journalist he said, she said. So maybe if you can discuss briefly, ano ba yung pagkakaiba nitong mga to?
Okay, let's start with propaganda kasi minsan ang pagtingin ng mga tao masama ang propaganda. Pero ang salitang propaganda ay mula sa word na propagos sa Griego na ang ibig sabihin ay to disseminate. So propaganda should be just simply a harmless, in fact, a productive gesture because it's all about information dissemination. Pero ang masama po sa propaganda ay yung tinatawag nating black propaganda kasi ito yung parang fake news eh. Bago pa man ginamit yung terminong fake news, meron ng black propaganda. So ito, disinformation ito, so puro kasinungalingan yung inilalagay. So yun po yung masama, yung black propaganda na ito. Kaya nga, historically, meron kang tinatawag na propaganda movement noong panahon ng mga Kastila, di ba? Kasi propagation of thought, of dissent, was being clearly articulated by our ancestors then. Yung balita po o news, we're talking about recency or yung mga pinakabago na kaganapan na nangyayari sa ating bansa at sa iba pang bahagi ng mundo. Kaya nga ang news, sabi nila, acronym for North, East, West, and South. Kasi kahit saan, may makukuha kang balita. So, may elemento ng propaganda dun sa pag-disseminate ng news. Pero basically, when we talk about news articles in journalism, mas factual ito. Walang opinion na ipinapasok yung mga nagsusulat ng balita. Kasi ini-interview mo yung iba't ibang sources ng information sa usapin ng news. Ngayon, may I get the other side of your question? I sort of forgot it.
Pero yung ano na lang, Sir Danny, yung pagpipili ng kung ano yung ibabalita, ano? Katulad ng sinabi ni Congressman Marcoleta, bakit daw hindi kinover yung pag-distribute niya ng bigas? Bakit daw istorya yung kinover ng ABS-CBN? I think maybe people need to understand what the role of journalism is and what the role of journalists are.
Okay, alam po ninyo, yung elemento ng pagpili ng balita, marami yan. Parang usapin din niya ng paglapag ng eroplano at yung pag-crash ng eroplano na wag sanang mangyari. Mas madalas po sa mga paliparan, lumalapag ng mapayapa yung mga eroplano, pero hindi natin ibinabalita ito kasi normal itong nangyayari. Pero kung merong halimbawa, aksidente na nangyari sa paliparan, syempre po, kailangang ibalita yun para i-alarma yung mga tao, hindi i-alarma yung matakot, pero i-alert rather yung mga tao dun sa pangyayaring ito kasi mahalaga itong impormasyong ito. Ngayon, yung isang legislator na namimigay ng bigas o nagiging mabait, dapat po, in theory, normal po yan na ginagawa ng isang public official. Kung ang gusto niya ire-report po ito, ibig sabihin lahat pala ng mga opisyal puro mga korap at hindi tumutulong sa mga tao, kaya yung isang namimigay ng bigas kakaiba o oddity, di ba? Kaya dapat matuwa pa nga yung legislator na ito na itago natin sa pangalang Marcoleta na dapat na matuwa siya na hindi ine-report ito kasi normal pala na mabait yung legislator pagka namimigay ng bigas. At saka ang problema, PR, yun yung isang side ng issue. The other side of the issue has to do with public relations. Kung kailangan niya ng i-report ito, PR ang gusto niyang mangyari. Kasi parang gusto niya, pag may press release siyang ipapamigay sa media, i-quote ito, tapos ipa-flash yung larawan niya na nandoon na namimigay ng bigas. Ang journalism, hindi po yan public relations. Kasi inherently, dapat yung sa usapin ng pagbabalita, kinukuha mo yung iba't ibang panig. Halimbawa lang, pinili ng isang periodista na i-publish yung kanyang pamimigay ng bigas, sisiguraduhin niya na lahat ay nabigyan, bubusisiin niya kung anong klaseng bigas yung ipinamigay, baka mamaya mumurahin o mamahalin ba yan, tapos lahat ba ng pamilya nabigyan o baka mamaya yung mga bumoto lang sa kanya yung nabigyan ng bigas at yung mga hindi bumoto sa kanya pinabayaan na lang. So bubusisiin at bubusisiin din po yan ng isang responsableng periodista.
Parang wala pa ako nagagawang story ng ganyan. All right. Maraming salamat, Congressman Zarate, Professor Danny Arao. Overtime na po tayo. Thank you so much for joining us in this episode of Viewpoint. And thank you so much to our viewers for tuning in. Do catch us live here on NYK's Facebook page every Saturday at 6 in the evening. My name is Barnaby Lo. This is Viewpoint. Now you know.